New York City, Lower Manhattan, 11:47 p.m. The rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of the penthouse, each drop a bullet against the glass. Dominic Russo stood motionless, his silhouette carved from shadow and city lights, hands clasped behind his back as he surveyed his kingdom below. 43 stories up, the world looked small, controllable, a grid of lights and lives he could snuff out with a phone call. He'd built this empire from blood and ashes, inherited his father's crew at 25 and transformed it into something the old Italian families both feared and respected. Now, at 34, Dominic Russo's name carried weight from Brighton Beach to the Bronx. When he spoke, men listened. When he moved, the city's underground shifted with him. Tonight, that empire was bleeding. "Tell me again," Dominic said, his voice low and measured, the kind of calm that preceded violence. He didn't turn from the window. Every detail. Behind him, Marco Vitale, his oldest friend, his consigliere, the only man he truly trusted, shifted his weight. The leather chair creaked. "The FBI had our shipping manifests. Every warehouse location, names, dates, routes, everything from the last 6 months. How many arrests? 12 of our guys. They hit 3 locations simultaneously this morning, perfectly coordinated." Marco paused, and Dominic could hear the anger bleeding through his measured tone. "Someone gave them a roadmap, Dom. Someone close." The muscle in Dominic's jaw tightened, the only outward sign of the fury coiling in his chest like a serpent. He'd spent years building walls around his operation, layers of protection and misdirection. The FBI had been circling for months, but they'd never gotten close, never had anything substantial, until now. "Who knew about all 3 locations?" Dominic asked. "You, me, Tony, Vincent." Marco hesitated. "And her." Dominic's reflection in the rain-streaked glass didn't change, but something dark flickered behind his eyes. "Say her name." "Elena. Elena Moretti." The name sat bitter on his tongue, a name he'd whispered in darkness, growled in passion, spoken with something dangerously close to tenderness. 28 years old, sharp as a blade, beautiful in a way that had nothing to do with the obvious and everything to do with the intelligence burning behind those dark eyes. She'd come into his world 2 years ago, daughter of Carlo Moretti, a retired associate who'd done time for the family back in the 90s. Good bloodlines. She'd worked her way from managing one of his legitimate clubs to handling sensitive logistics. Smart, loyal, efficient, or so he'd thought. "You're certain?" Dominic's voice dropped to barely above a whisper, and Marco knew that tone. It was the quiet before the storm, the moment before Dominic Russo stopped being a man and became the monster the streets feared. Tony tracked the leak. Encrypted emails from her laptop to a federal server. 6 weeks of communication. Marco stood approaching carefully. She was careful, but not careful enough. Bank records show deposits totaling $200,000. Offshore account. 200,000 pieces of silver. Dominic finally turned, and Marco instinctively took a step back. His boss's face was a mask of controlled fury. Dark eyes flat and cold, features carved from marble. This was the man who'd once made an example of a rival family's underboss by destroying everything he loved before finally granting him the mercy of death. This was the man who ruled through fear and respect in equal measure. "Where is she?" "We've had eyes on her apartment in Tribeca. She hasn't left since this morning. Probably thinks she's safe that we don't know yet." Marco pulled out his phone, pulling up surveillance photos. "She's alone." Dominic took the phone, studying the images. Elena in her apartment, pacing, phone pressed to her ear. Even in the grainy security footage, she was stunning. Dark hair falling past her shoulders, wearing one of those silk blouses she favored, the kind that managed to be both professional and devastating. He'd unbuttoned that blouse more than once, felt her pulse racing beneath his lips. The memory brought no warmth, only ice. "She made me weak," Dominic said quietly, more to himself than Marco. "I let her in, let her see things, know things. She played us all, Dom. She was good. Not good enough." Dominic handed back the phone. "Gather the crew. I want Vincent, Tony, and Paolo. Tell them to meet me at the warehouse in Red Hook. 1 hour. What about Elena?" Dominic's smile was razor thin and didn't reach his eyes. "Bring her to me. Alive. Unharmed." He paused, savoring the words. "I'll handle her myself." Marco nodded and headed for the door, but Dominic's voice stopped him. "Marco, make sure she knows it's over. Make sure she understands that whatever she thought she'd gained by betraying me, she's lost everything." Elena's apartment. Tribeca, 12:23 a.m. Elena Moretti sat on her couch, knees pulled to her chest, staring at her phone like it might explode. The apartment was dark except for the ambient light from the city filtering through sheer curtains. Rain continued its assault on the windows, the sound usually soothing but tonight feeling like drums of war. She'd been waiting for this moment for 6 weeks, waiting for the hammer to fall, for Dominic's world to crumble, for her to finally be free of the gilded cage she'd walked into 2 years ago. The FBI had promised her protection, new identity, new life. All she had to do was give them Dominic Russo on a silver platter, and they'd make her disappear. She'd given them everything, but the silence from her handler was deafening. No calls, no messages. The news was reporting the arrests, but something felt wrong. The operation should have gone bigger. Dominic should have been taken down, not just his crew. Her phone buzzed and Elena nearly dropped it. Unknown number. Her hands trembled as she answered. "Hello? Ms. Moretti." The voice was professional, female, unfamiliar. "This is Agent Sarah Chen, FBI. I need you to listen very carefully." "Where's Agent Morrison?" "He was supposed to." "Agent Morrison has been reassigned. There's been a complication with the operation. We need to extract you. Now." Elena's blood ran cold. "What kind of complication?" "Your cover may be compromised. We're not certain, but we can't take risks. There's a car waiting outside your building. Black sedan. 2 agents. They'll bring you to a safe house in..." The line went dead. Elena stared at her phone, heart hammering against her ribs. The screen showed the call had lasted 47 seconds. She waited for it to ring again, for Chen to call back, but nothing came. "Your cover may be compromised." The words echoed in her head, each syllable a death knell. If Dominic knew, if he even suspected, she'd seen what he did to traitors. She'd been in the room when he'd ordered a man's entire operation dismantled because of a suspected leak. She'd watched his face remain expressionless as he described in chilling detail how betrayal would be met with consequences that lasted generations. Elena stood, legs unsteady, and moved to the window. 47 stories below, the street glistened with rain. A black sedan was indeed parked across the street, hazard lights blinking. FBI? Or something else? She grabbed her laptop, shoving it into a bag along with her passport, cash she'd hidden, and a change of clothes. Her hands moved on autopilot while her mind raced. The smart play was to trust the FBI, get in that car, disappear into witness protection. But something felt wrong. Elena was reaching for her coat when she heard it, the distinctive click of her apartment door's lock being bypassed. Not picked, bypassed. The kind of sophisticated entry that spoke of resources and expertise. She froze, every instinct screaming. The door opened smoothly, quietly. 3 figures entered, moving with military precision. The first was massive, Paolo, one of Dominic's enforcers, 6'4" of muscle and loyalty. The second was Vincent, lean and dangerous, the kind of man who could kill you with a smile. The third was Tony, scarred and cold-eyed. Paolo's gaze found her immediately. "Ms. Moretti, Mr. Russo would like to see you." Elena's bag slipped from her fingers. This was it, the moment she'd feared since she'd sent that first encrypted email 6 weeks ago. "I don't know what," she started, but Vincent cut her off. "Please don't insult us. We're just here to escort you, cooperate, and this stays civilized." Civilized. The word was almost funny. There was nothing civilized about what Dominic Russo would do to a traitor. Elena calculated her options in seconds. The window was suicide. Fighting 3 trained killers was suicide. Running would only delay the inevitable. And somewhere beneath the terror, beneath the frantic beating of her heart, a small voice whispered that perhaps she deserved this, that she'd known the cost of betrayal when she'd made the choice. "Where?" she asked, her voice steadier than she felt. "Red Hook, Warehouse District." Paolo's expression was almost sympathetic. Almost. "It's better if you come quietly, Ms. Moretti. Mr. Russo was very specific about your condition upon arrival. Alive, unharmed. For now." Elena nodded, pulling on her coat with hands that only trembled slightly. As they escorted her to the elevator, she caught a glimpse of herself in the hall mirror, dark hair slightly disheveled, face pale, dark eyes wide with fear she couldn't quite mask. She looked like a woman walking to her execution, because she was. Red Hook Warehouse, Brooklyn, 1:47 a.m. The warehouse squatted in the industrial wasteland of Red Hook like a sleeping beast. Corrugated metal walls, broken windows on the upper levels, surrounded by chain-link fence and shadows. The kind of place where screams went unheard and bodies disappeared into the East River. Dominic arrived in a black SUV, Marco at the wheel. The rain had softened to a drizzle, but the air tasted of salt and rust and something darker. Inside, the warehouse was mostly empty. Concrete floor stained with oil and history. Metal beams creating a skeleton overhead. A few chairs arranged in the center under a hanging work light that swung gently. casting moving shadows. Dominic shrugged off his coat, rolling up the sleeves of his black shirt with practiced precision. He was dressed simply tonight. No suit, no pretense, just a man preparing for ugly work. "She'll be here in 10 minutes, Marco reported, checking his phone. "Paolo says she came quietly." "Good." Dominic's voice was flat. He pulled out a chair, positioning it deliberately under the light, then walked to the shadows at the warehouse's edge, where he could watch, observe, let the anticipation build. He'd thought carefully about this moment, about what Elena deserved, about what example needed to be set. There were traditional methods, brutal, efficient, final, but Dominic had decided on something different, something that would hurt more than bullets, more than blades. He would destroy her psychologically before he decided her ultimate fate. He would make her understand the magnitude of her betrayal, make her feel what she'd done to him, to his organization, to the trust he'd foolishly placed in her. The warehouse door groaned open, and Elena walked in flanked by Paolo and Vincent. Even now, even knowing what she'd done, Dominic felt the familiar pull. She moved with grace despite her fear, chin slightly raised, shoulders back, defiant even in defeat. It was what had attracted him in the first place, that spark, that refusal to be just another pretty face in his world. It would make breaking her so much more satisfying. Their eyes met across the space, and Dominic saw the moment she registered his presence in the shadows, saw the fear flash across her face, quickly masked. She was good at hiding her emotions. He'd taught her some of that himself. "Sit," Dominic commanded, his voice echoing in the empty space. Elena walked to the chair under the light, her heels clicking against concrete, each step measured. She sat with her back straight, hands folded in her lap, and waited. Dominic let the silence stretch, let her fear ferment. He circled slowly from the shadows, emerging into the light's edge, studying her like a predator, deciding where to bite first. $200,000, he finally said. "That's what they paid you? That's what my trust was worth?" Elena's jaw tightened, but she met his gaze. "Dominic, don't." The single word cracked like a whip. "You don't get to say my name. You lost that right when you sold me to the feds. You don't understand." "Then explain." Dominic stepped closer, and Elena flinched despite herself. "Explain how the woman I brought into my world, into my life, could betray everything. Explain how you could smile in my face while destroying everything I built." Elena's composure cracked slightly. "Your empire is built on suffering, on violence. You think you're a king, but you're just a criminal who—" Dominic moved faster than thought, his hand gripping the back of her chair, leaning down until his face was inches from hers. "Careful," he whispered, his breath hot against her ear. "You're already on borrowed time. Don't make this worse." He could feel her trembling now, smell her perfume, something expensive he'd bought her months ago before everything turned to ash. The proximity stirred memories he wanted to burn away. Her laugh, her touch, the way she'd looked at him like he was more than the monster everyone else saw. All lies. Dominic straightened, stepping back, regaining control. "You wanted to destroy me. Congratulations. You've hurt me. 12 of my men are in federal custody because of you. Millions in product seized. Years of work compromised." He circled her slowly, a shark in dark water. "But here's what you didn't account for, Elena. You didn't break me. You made me remember who I am, what I am. And now you're going to learn what happens when someone makes Dominic Russo remember that mercy is weakness." Elena's breathing quickened, her composure finally shattering. "What are you going to do to me?" Dominic smiled, and it was terrible to behold. "That depends entirely on you." Red Hook Warehouse, Brooklyn, 2:15 a.m. The silence in the warehouse was suffocating. Elena sat under the harsh light, every muscle in her body coiled tight, waiting for the violence she knew was coming. She'd seen Dominic angry before, cold, calculated fury that ended with men disappearing. But this was different. This was personal. Dominic circled her slowly, his footsteps echoing off concrete and metal. He'd removed his watch, his rings, methodically placing them on a rusted metal table in the shadows. Each small gesture felt ceremonial, deliberate, a man preparing for something significant. "Send them away," Dominic said suddenly, his voice cutting through the tension. He wasn't looking at Elena but at Marco, Paolo, and Vincent, who stood near the entrance like sentinels. Marco stepped forward. "Dom, you sure? If she tries, she won't." Dominic's eyes finally found Elena's, and she saw something dark swimming in those depths. Not just rage, but something more complicated. "Will you, Elena?" It wasn't really a question. It was a challenge. A test. Elena swallowed hard, her throat dry. "No." "See?" Dominic gestured dismissively. "Leave us." I'll handle this myself. Marco hesitated, his loyalty warring with concern. At least let me stay outside. In case, go back to Manhattan. All of you. I'll call when I'm done. Dominic's tone left no room for argument. This is between me and her. The three men exchanged glances, then filed out one by one. Paolo gave Elena one last look, something almost pitying, before the warehouse door clanged shut, leaving them alone. The sound of the lock engaging echoed like a gunshot. Elena's heart hammered against her ribs. Somehow, being alone with Dominic was more terrifying than facing all of them. At least with witnesses, there were limits to what he might do. Now there was nothing between her and whatever revenge he'd planned. Dominic moved to the metal table, pouring amber liquid from a bottle into 2 glasses. Whiskey. Expensive, probably. He always had refined tastes, even in his brutality. "Drink," he said, bringing 1 glass to her. Elena stared at it, suspicious. "Is it poisoned?" A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "If I wanted you dead, Elena, you'd already be bleeding out. Drink. You'll need it." Her hand trembled as she took the glass. The whiskey burned going down, but the warmth helped slightly. Dominic drained his own in one smooth motion, then set the glass aside. "Stand up," he commanded. Elena obeyed, her legs unsteady. Dominic approached slowly, and she forced herself not to retreat. She'd known this man intimately, had traced the scars on his chest, memorized the way his jaw tightened when he was thinking, learned to read the subtle shifts in his expression that others missed. That knowledge felt dangerous now. "You know what I should do to you?" Dominic's voice was soft, almost conversational, which made it more menacing. "I should make an example. Public, brutal, something that would echo through every family from here to Chicago. A reminder that no one betrays Dominic Russo and lives to speak of it." He circled behind her, and Elena felt his presence like heat against her back. "But that would be too easy," he continued, his breath stirring her hair. "Too quick. You'd become a martyr, a cautionary tale, over in hours, maybe days. And then what? You'd be gone, and I'd still be here with this." His voice cracked slightly. "This feeling inside me." Elena closed her eyes. "What feeling? Rage? Betrayal? And something worse." His hand came up, not touching her, but close enough that she could feel the warmth. "The feeling that I was a fool, that I let you in, let you see me, and you used every vulnerability against me." "Dominic, no." He moved in front of her again, and the raw emotion in his eyes stole her breath. "You don't get to explain yet. First, you're going to feel what I feel. Every piece of it." His hand cupped her chin, tilting her face up. The touch was gentle, almost tender, which somehow made it more threatening. "I'm not going to hurt you, Elena. Not the way you're expecting." Confusion flickered across her face. "Then what? I'm going to remind you what you threw away, what you destroyed, and you're going to hate yourself more than I could ever make you hate me." Before she could process his words, Dominic's mouth crashed against hers. It wasn't gentle. It was fury and passion and 2 years of complicated history burning between them. Elena gasped against his lips, her hands coming up instinctively. To push him away or pull him closer, she wasn't sure. Dominic's hand tangled in her hair, the other gripping her waist, holding her against him. The kiss was devastating, familiar and foreign all at once. She knew the taste of him, the way he commanded even this, but there was something desperate underlying it now, something almost broken. When he pulled back, they were both breathing hard. "This is your punishment," Dominic said roughly, his forehead pressed against hers. "I'm going to make you remember every moment between us, every touch, every word, and then you're going to live with what you destroyed." Elena's mind reeled. This wasn't what she'd expected. Violence, yes. Threats, certainly. But this psychological warfare that blurred the lines between hate and desire? "You're insane," she whispered. "You made me this way." His hand traced down her neck, her shoulder, the touch feather-light and electric. "You made me believe you were different, that you saw past the monster to something worth caring about." Was any of it real, Elena? The question hung between them, heavy with meaning. Elena wanted to lie, wanted to tell him it had all been an act, that she'd felt nothing, that seducing him had been just another tool in her arsenal. But when she opened her mouth, the truth spilled out instead. "Yes," she breathed. "God help me, yes." Parts of it were real. Something flickered in Dominic's eyes. Triumph, pain, she couldn't tell. His hand stilled on her collarbone, right above her racing heart. "Which parts?" he demanded. Elena's eyes burned with unshed tears. "The parts I wish weren't." The admission seemed to crack something in Dominic's carefully controlled facade. He kissed her again, slower this time but no less intense. His hands moved with purpose, unbuttoning her blouse with practiced ease, each button a small surrender. "Tell me to stop," he murmured against her lips. "Tell me you feel nothing, and I'll end this differently." But Elena couldn't, because despite everything, the betrayal, the fear, the certain knowledge that this was dangerous, her body remembered him. Her heart, that traitorous organ, remembered what it felt like to be seen by him. Her blouse fell away and Dominic's hands mapped territory they knew well, but this time every touch felt different, charged with anger and longing, and something desperate that neither could name. "I hate you," Elena gasped as his mouth found the sensitive spot below her ear. "I know," his voice was raw. "I hate you too." But his hands were gentle despite his words, reverent even in their fury. He lifted her, and her legs wrapped around his waist instinctively. He carried her to a cleaner area of the warehouse where furniture from some long-ago office remained. An old leather couch, cracked but serviceable. The rain had picked up again outside, drumming against the metal roof, creating a rhythm that matched their racing hearts. Dominic laid her down, hovering over her, his weight familiar and grounding. For a moment, they just stared at each other. Two people who'd been intimate in every way, now strangers connected only by betrayal and this magnetic pull they couldn't escape. "Last chance," Dominic said hoarsely. "Tell me to stop." Elena reached up, her fingers tracing the scar on his jaw she'd memorized months ago. "I can't." What happened next was a collision of 2 years of passion, weeks of deception, and hours of raw emotion. Every touch was a question, every movement an answer neither wanted to examine too closely. Dominic had intended this to be about power, about making her understand what she'd lost, but somewhere between anger and action, between revenge and reality, something shifted. Elena's breath caught and the sound undid him. Her hands gripped his shoulders, her voice breaking on his name, and Dominic felt his carefully constructed rage begin to fracture. This wasn't supposed to happen. She wasn't supposed to look at him like that, like she was breaking too, like this meant something beyond physical release. "Dominic," she gasped, and the way she said his name, broken and real and stripped of all pretense, shattered something inside him. He captured her mouth again, swallowing her sounds, trying to maintain control even as he lost it. Their bodies moved together with familiar synchronicity, 2 years of knowing each other bleeding through despite the circumstances. When Elena's back arched and she cried out, Dominic felt his own control slip. The vengeance he'd planned dissolved into something far more dangerous, need, raw, and undeniable. Afterward, they lay tangled together on the old couch, breathing hard, the warehouse suddenly too quiet around them. Reality crept back in slowly, bringing with it the weight of what they'd done. Dominic moved first, pulling away. His expression shuddered. He grabbed his shirt, yanking it on with sharp movements, his back to her. Elena sat up, pulling her blouse closed with shaking hands. That wasn't supposed to happen. No. Dominic's voice was cold again, but she heard the strain underneath. It wasn't. He turned to face her, and Elena saw the war in his eyes, the anger fighting with something softer, more vulnerable, the mob boss struggling with the man underneath. "You destroyed everything," he said quietly. "My operation, my trust. 12 of my men are in federal custody because you sold us out. I should..." He stopped, running a hand through his hair. "I should make you pay for that. So why don't you?" Elena's voice was steadier now, even as her heart remained chaotic. Dominic stared at her for a long moment. "Because apparently I'm weaker than I thought. Because even knowing what you did, even with proof of your betrayal, He cut himself off, jaw clenching. "Get dressed." Elena stood on unsteady legs, fixing her clothes while Dominic put distance between them, moving to the window where rain streaked the dirty glass. "What happens now?" she asked. "I don't know." The admission seemed to cost him. "You betrayed me, sold information to the FBI, took their money. The penalty for that is death. It's always been death. Then why am I still breathing?" Dominic's reflection in the window was harsh, shadowed. "Because I'm trying to figure out if keeping you alive will hurt more than killing you." The words should have terrified her, but instead, Elena heard the truth beneath them. He couldn't do it. Whatever had just happened between them, revenge, passion, something else, had complicated everything. "The FBI will come for me," Elena said quietly. "They'll realize their extraction failed. They'll know I'm compromised. Let them come." Dominic turned, and his expression was hard again, the mob boss sliding back into place. "You're mine now, Elena. Not theirs. Not the government's. Mine. And I'm going to decide what to do with you." He walked to her, gripping her chin firmly. "But understand this. What just happened. That changes nothing about what you did. You still betrayed me. You still destroyed 2 years of work. And you will pay for that. Maybe not today, maybe not how I planned, but there will be a reckoning. Elena met his gaze steadily. I know. Good. He released her, stepping back. Marco will be here in 20 minutes. He'll take you somewhere safe, somewhere I control. You don't leave without my permission. You don't contact anyone. You don't breathe without me knowing about it. I'm a prisoner. You're alive. Dominic's smile was sharp. Be grateful for that. Not many people who cross me can say the same. He gathered his things. Watch, rings, the whiskey bottle. Each movement was controlled, precise, the mask firmly back in place. But Elena had seen beneath it now, had felt the cracks in his armor. Dominic, she called as he headed for the door. He paused but didn't turn. For what it's worth, I never wanted to hurt you. The rest of it, yes, but not you. His shoulders tensed, and for a moment she thought he might respond. But then he was moving again, walking away. 20 minutes, he said without looking back. Be ready. The door clanged shut, and Elena was alone in the warehouse, surrounded by shadows and the fading warmth of what they'd shared. She sank back onto the couch, her mind reeling. The plan had been simple. Betray Dominic, bring down his empire, get her freedom. Instead, she'd complicated everything beyond recognition. Because somewhere between the betrayal and this moment, between fear and fury and that devastating intimacy, Elena realized the terrible truth. She'd fallen for the man she was supposed to destroy. And judging by what just happened, Dominic's feelings were equally complicated. Outside, the rain continued to fall on a city that never slept, washing away nothing, changing everything. Dominic's private estate, Westchester County. 3 days later, the estate sat on 12 acres of manicured grounds, 40 minutes north of Manhattan. Stone walls, iron gates, security cameras at every angle. A fortress disguised as a mansion, where Dominic Russo conducted business too sensitive for his public offices and kept things, or people, he wanted hidden from the world. Elena stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of her assigned bedroom, watching dawn break over the property. The room was luxurious. King-sized bed with Egyptian cotton sheets, marble bathroom, walk-in closet stocked with clothes in her exact size. A gilded cage, beautiful and suffocating. She'd been here 3 days. 3 days of isolation, of Marco delivering meals with minimal conversation, of hearing Dominic's voice echoing through the halls below but never seeing him. He was avoiding her, and they both knew it. That night in the warehouse had changed everything and resolved nothing. Elena touched her lips, remembering the anger in his kiss, the desperation, the way his hands had trembled slightly when he'd touched her, as if fighting himself. She'd expected violence, punishment, maybe death. Instead, she'd gotten something far more dangerous. Proof that whatever existed between them wasn't dead. It was wounded, bleeding, but very much alive. A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. Come in, she called, expecting Marco with breakfast. Instead, Dominic entered. He looked like he hadn't slept. Dark circles under his eyes, stubble shadowing his jaw, still wearing yesterday's clothes. But his presence filled the room immediately, commanding and magnetic even in exhaustion. We need to talk, he said, closing the door behind him. Elena turned from the window, crossing her arms. 3 days of silence and now you want to talk? I've been busy. His tone was defensive. Cleaning up the mess you created. 12 of my guys are facing federal charges. I've had to restructure operations, move assets, convince our associates that I still have control. Do you? The question came out sharper than intended. Dominic's eyes flashed. What do you think? I think that night in the warehouse scared you. Elena met his gaze steadily. I think you're avoiding me because you don't know how to reconcile what you should do with what you want to do. The muscle in his jaw ticked. Don't presume to know what I want. Then tell me. She moved closer, emboldened by her own recklessness. Tell me what happens now. Am I a prisoner? A hostage? Your personal revenge project? What exactly am I to you, Dominic? He was on her in 2 strides, backing her against the window, his hands on either side of her head, not touching but close enough that she could feel his heat, smell the lingering cologne mixed with whiskey and exhaustion. You're a problem, he growled. A complication I don't know how to solve, so solve it. Elena's heart raced, but she kept her voice steady. Kill me. Let me go. Make a decision. It's not that simple. Why not? Dominic's forehead dropped to hers, his eyes closing. Because I can't stop thinking about you. Because every time I plan what to do with you, I remember the warehouse. I remember 2 years of... He stopped, pulling back, running a hand through his hair. This is exactly what you wanted, isn't it? To mess with my head. To make me weak. That's not... Save it. He moved away, putting distance between them. The FBI has been quiet. Too quiet. No raids, no pressure on my remaining operations. They got what they wanted from you. Arrests, evidence, and then nothing. Elena frowned. What are you saying? I'm saying they used you and cut you loose. You delivered me on a platter. They made their arrests and now you're radioactive. No witness protection. No new identity. They burned you. The words hit like a physical blow. Elena had suspected as much when the extraction went wrong, but hearing it confirmed was different. So I betrayed everything for nothing. Not nothing. Dominic's smile was bitter. You severely damaged my organization, cost me millions, made me question everyone around me. That's something. Dominic, why? The question exploded from him. That's what I can't figure out. Why did you do it? The money? Conscience? Or was this personal? Elena's throat tightened. This was the moment. Truth or lies. She'd been trained to lie, had perfected it over 2 years. But looking at Dominic now, she found she was tired of deception. My father, she said quietly. Carlo Moretti, you knew him. He did time for the family. Stood up, never ratted. I respected that. He died 3 years ago. Elena's voice cracked slightly. Lung cancer. He spent his last months in pain, broken, with nothing to show for his loyalty. No pension, no protection. The family he'd bled for forgot about him the moment he became a liability. Dominic's expression shifted slightly, understanding dawning. I watched him waste away in a VA hospital room because he couldn't afford better care, Elena continued, the words pouring out now. He'd given everything to your world and it gave him nothing back, just suffering and an early grave. So this was revenge, for your father. At first, Elena met his eyes. I wanted to hurt the organization that used him. I wanted to make them pay. The FBI approached me 6 months after he died. They knew who I was, knew my connection. They offered me a way to destroy everything my father had believed in and get paid for it. And you took it. Yes, no hesitation. I took the job managing your club specifically to get close, to gather information, to become someone you'd trust enough to let in. Dominic's face was unreadable. And then I got to know you. Elena's voice softened. The man, not the reputation. I saw how you treated your people, how you carried the weight of every decision, how you... She stopped, looking away. It got complicated. Complicated? Dominic repeated, his laugh harsh. That's one word for it. He moved to her dresser, picking up a framed photo that had been there when she arrived. A generic stock image, meaningless. I trusted you, Elena. I let you see parts of me I show no one. I told you things in the dark that could destroy me. I know, and you used all of it. He turned and the pain in his eyes was raw. Every vulnerability I showed you became a weapon. Every truth I shared became evidence. That's what hurts more than the FBI raids or the arrests. You took something real and poisoned it. Elena's eyes burned. It wasn't all manipulation. What happened between us, some of it was real. How much? Dominic demanded, moving closer. How much was the assignment and how much was you? When you were in my bed, in my life, which parts were acting? I don't know anymore. The admission cost her. In the beginning, all of it. But somewhere along the way, the lines blurred. I'd catch myself forgetting why I was there, forgetting what I was supposed to be doing. And then I'd remember my father, and I'd force myself back on track. Right up until you sent everything to the FBI. Yes, Elena's voice broke. Right up until I destroyed us both. The silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken emotions and irreversible choices. Dominic finally spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. I should hate you. I want to hate you. Every logical part of me says to end this, to make you pay properly for what you've done. But I can't. He was in front of her again, his hand cupping her face with devastating gentleness. And that makes me more dangerous than if I hated you cleanly. Because now I don't know what I'll do, how far I'll go to keep you, what I'll sacrifice to make sense of this. His thumb traced her lower lip, and Elena's breath caught. You've made me obsessed, Dominic continued, his voice rough. I can't focus, can't think straight. Every decision I make factors you into it. That's not how I operate. That's not who I am. Then let me go. Even as she said it, Elena knew she didn't want that. Let me disappear. You'll never see me again. No, the word was final, absolute. You're mine now, not the FBI's, not anyone else's. Mine, and I'm going to figure out what that means. Before Elena could respond, Dominic's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, his expression darkening. We have a problem. What kind of problem? The Valenti family. They've heard rumors about my organization's instability, about the FBI arrests. They're sensing weakness. He showed her the text, a meeting request, thinly veiled as courtesy but clearly a power play. Elena's heart sank. The Valentis were brutal, old-school mob with none of Dominic's restraint. If they thought he was vulnerable, they'd move against him. "This is because of me," she said. "Because of what I did." "Yes," Dominic didn't sugarcoat it. "You've created opportunities for my enemies. The question is what we do about it." "We?" Elena repeated. "I'm your prisoner, remember? You're also someone who knows how to think strategically, how to read people." He studied her intently. "The Valentis don't know about you specifically. They just know something weakened my organization. I need to show strength, stability. I need—" He stopped, an idea clearly forming. "What?" Elena prompted. Dominic's smile was calculating. "I need to make a statement. Show the families that I'm not weakened, that I'm stronger than ever, and you're going to help me do it." "How?" "There's a gathering next week. All the major families. Business, territory agreements, the usual. I'm going to bring you as my date." Elena stared at him. "You're insane. If anyone recognizes me, if the FBI finds out, that's the point." Dominic's eyes gleamed with dangerous brilliance. "I'm going to parade you in front of everyone. The woman who tried to destroy me, now at my side. It sends a message. I'm so powerful that I've turned my enemy into an asset. That even betrayal ends with people belonging to me. That's a huge risk. Everything worth doing is." He moved closer, his hand sliding to her waist. "But here's the truth, Elena. I need you for this, and you need me. The FBI abandoned you. The Valentis would kill you on sight if they knew what you did. Your only protection right now is me. So I'm useful." The words tasted bitter. "You're more than that." Dominic's voice dropped to something intimate, dangerous. "And we both know it." He kissed her then, not with the fury of the warehouse, but with something darker, more possessive, acclaiming. Elena melted into it despite herself, her hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Dominic rested his forehead against hers. "This is crazy," Elena whispered. "Probably." His smile was sharp. "But I've never been good at walking away from things I want, even when I should." Over the next 3 days, Elena's existence at the estate transformed. Dominic spent hours with her now, sometimes discussing business, sometimes just existing in the same space. They ate meals together, argued about strategy, and when the tension became unbearable, they'd crash together with the same desperate intensity as that first night. It was toxic and magnetic, and neither could stop. "Tell me about the Valentis," Elena said one evening, sitting across from Dominic in his study. Rain pattered against the windows and a fire crackled in the stone fireplace. Dominic sipped his whiskey, studying her over the rim. "Old money, old ways. They've controlled the waterfront for 3 generations. Santino Valenti runs things now. He's ruthless but sloppy, gets emotional, makes mistakes. Weaknesses: his pride, his temper, his son Marco." Dominic's expression darkened. "The kid's ambitious, thinks he should be running things, creates internal friction." Elena absorbed this, her mind working. "So we play them against each other. Make Santino think you're a threat to his leadership. Make Marco think you're an opportunity. Dangerous game. Everything about this is dangerous." Elena met his gaze. "But if we're doing this, we do it right." Dominic's smile was genuine this time. Impressed. "There's the strategic mind I remember." They worked late into the night, planning, strategizing, and when exhaustion finally claimed them, they ended up on the leather couch, Elena's head on Dominic's chest, his arms wrapped around her, both pretending this was normal. "This can't last," Elena murmured into the darkness. "I know," Dominic replied, his voice rough. "Someone's going to get hurt. Probably both of us." Elena tilted her head up, finding his eyes in the firelight. "Why are we doing this then?" Dominic's hand traced her jaw, his expression raw and unguarded. "Because for the first time in my life I don't know how to walk away. Because you've gotten under my skin, into my head, and I can't excise you without bleeding out." "That's not love," Elena whispered. "That's obsession." "Maybe." His lips brushed hers softly. "But it's what we have." Outside, the rain intensified, and somewhere in the city below, enemies circled. But in this moment, in this room, they had each other, and the dangerous connection neither could deny or escape. The obsession had taken root, twisted and real, and it would either save them or destroy them completely. There was no middle ground left. The Plaza Hotel, Manhattan. 1 week later, the grand ballroom glittered with old money and older violence. Crystal chandeliers cast prismatic light across men in $1,000 suits and women dripping in diamonds. The city's criminal elite gathered under the guise of a charity fundraiser. Everyone knew what this really was: a show of power, a measuring of territories, a careful dance where the wrong step could start a war. Elena stood before the full-length mirror in their hotel suite, smoothing down the emerald silk dress Dominic had chosen. It hugged every curve, elegant and provocative in equal measure. Her dark hair was swept up, exposing her neck. Vulnerable, exposed. Exactly the image Dominic wanted to project. "You look perfect," Dominic said from behind her, adjusting his cufflinks. He wore a black suit tailored to perfection, looking every inch the dangerous kingpin he was. "Nervous? Terrified," Elena admitted. "Half the people down there would kill me if they knew who I really was. They won't." Dominic moved closer, his hands settling on her waist. "As far as anyone knows, you're Elena Moretti, daughter of a respected associate, now under my protection. My date. He paused, the word heavy between them. "Mine." Elena met his eyes in the mirror. "Is that what I am? That's what you need to be tonight." His lips brushed her bare shoulder. "Can you do this?" She thought about the alternative, hiding in that beautiful cage while Dominic's enemies circled. Thought about the FBI abandoning her, her father's wasted sacrifice, the complicated knot of feelings she couldn't untangle. "Yes," she said firmly. "Let's remind them who they're dealing with." Dominic's smile was predatory and proud. "That's my girl." The endearment should have felt manipulative, possessive. Instead, it sent warmth through her chest that she couldn't justify or deny. They descended to the ballroom together, and Elena felt every eye turn to track them. Dominic's hand rested on the small of her back, protective, claiming. She kept her spine straight, her expression serene, playing the role perfectly. "Dominic Russo," a voice boomed. Santino Valenti approached, a bear of a man with silver hair and cold eyes. "Heard you've had some trouble lately." "Nothing I couldn't handle." Dominic's tone was pleasant, dangerous. "Santino, you know how the feds are, always fishing, never catching anything substantial." Santino's gaze slid to Elena, assessing, invasive. "And who's this beauty?" "Elena Moretti, Carlo's daughter." Dominic's grip on her waist tightened slightly, a warning, a reassurance. "Elena, Santino Valenti." Recognition flickered in Santino's eyes. "Carlo's kid? I remember him, stand-up guy. Shame what happened." Elena smiled, and it was razor-sharp. "Thank you. My father spoke highly of the old ways. Loyalty, honor, respect." Each word was deliberate, a subtle reminder of what men like Santino claimed to value. Smart and beautiful. Santino's laugh was oily. "Careful, Russo. Women like that are dangerous." "I'm well aware," Dominic replied smoothly. "That's why I keep her close." Marco Valenti, Santino's son, appeared at his father's elbow. Younger, hungrier, with his father's brutality but none of his restraint. His eyes lingered on Elena too long, and she felt Dominic tense beside her. "Father," Marco said, barely glancing at Dominic, "we should discuss the waterfront situation. I hear Russo's operations have become unpredictable." "My operations are stronger than ever," Dominic said, his voice deceptively calm. "Perhaps you're confusing tactical reorganization with weakness." "Perhaps." Marco's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Or perhaps the FBI raids were more damaging than you're admitting." The tension ratcheted up instantly. Other conversations around them quieted, people sensing potential conflict. Elena stepped forward smoothly, her hand on Dominic's arm. "Gentlemen, this is a party. Surely business can wait." She smiled at Marco, disarming. "Though I'd love to hear about your family's ventures. My father always said the Valentis were the backbone of the waterfront." It was perfect deflection, stroking Marco's ego while subtly reminding him of the old guard's respect for tradition. Marco's posture shifted slightly, pride replacing aggression. "Your father was wise," Marco said, his tone warming. "Perhaps we could discuss it over drinks later. I'd be interested in your perspective on the current landscape." "Perhaps," Elena replied non-committally, feeling Dominic's approval in the way his hand settled more firmly on her waist. Santino studied them both, then nodded. "Enjoy the evening, Russo. We'll talk business another time." As the Valentis moved away, Dominic leaned close to Elena's ear. "Perfectly played. That's what I'm here for, right?" The words came out more bitter than intended. Before Dominic could respond, another voice interrupted. Smooth, educated, dangerous in a different way. "Dominic, I didn't expect to see you here." Elena turned and felt her blood run cold. Agent Morrison stood 3 feet away, wearing a tuxedo and a predatory smile. The FBI handler who'd recruited her promised her protection, then vanished when she needed him most. "Agent Morrison," Dominic's voice was ice. "Funny, I didn't realize federal agents attended charity events. We donate too. Community relations." Morrison's eyes found Elena, and his smile widened. "Ms. Moretti, You're looking well. Much better than when we last spoke. Elena's heart hammered, but years of survival instinct kicked in. She moved closer to Dominic, playing the role. I'm sorry. Do we know each other? My mistake. Morrison's tone suggested anything but. You just remind me of someone I used to work with, someone who disappeared rather suddenly. The threat was unmistakable. Dominic's entire body had gone rigid, his hand gripping Elena's waist tight enough to bruise. Careful, Agent, Dominic said softly. Accusations without evidence are just noise, and noise can be permanently silenced. Morrison's smile never wavered. No accusations, just observations. Though I have to say, Russo, you've made some interesting choices lately. Keeping potential liabilities so close, that's not your usual style. My style is evolving. Dominic pulled Elena flush against him. Now, if you'll excuse us, we have people to see. He guided Elena away before Morrison could respond, his grip iron hard. He knows, Elena whispered once they were out of earshot. He's going to do nothing. Dominic cut her off. He's fishing. If he had real evidence, real leverage, he'd have used it already. He's trying to rattle us. It's working. Dominic stopped, turning to face her fully. The ballroom swirled around them, but his focus was absolute. Listen to me. Morrison abandoned you. He used you for what he needed, then cut you loose. You're not his asset anymore. You're not anyone's but mine. And I protect what's mine. The possessiveness should have angered her. Instead, it felt like the only solid ground in a world shifting beneath her feet. Dominic, we're leaving, he decided suddenly. We've made our appearance, shown strength. Staying longer just gives people time to dig. They made their exit smoothly, Dominic exchanging pleasantries while guiding Elena toward the door. But as they reached the lobby, Marco Valenti stepped out from the bar, blocking their path. Leaving so soon? He'd been drinking, his eyes glassy but sharp. I was hoping to have that conversation with Ms. Moretti. Another time, Dominic said firmly. No, I think now. Marco moved closer, invading space. See, I've been thinking about your operation, Russo. About how convenient it would be if someone were to take over the pieces while you're distracted. Dominic's expression went flat. Dangerous. Careful, Marco. Your father wouldn't appreciate you starting problems he'd have to finish. My father's getting old. Soft. Marco's hand reached out toward Elena. Maybe it's time for new leadership, new alliances. Dominic moved faster than thought, his hand catching Marco's wrist in a grip that made the younger man wince. Touch her, and I'll break every bone in your hand before your father even knows you're bleeding. Security appeared instantly, the hotel's neutral ground enforcers. The two men stared at each other, violence crackling in the air between them. Gentlemen, one security guard said carefully, perhaps we should all take a breath. Marco jerked his hand free, his face flushed with rage and humiliation. This isn't over, Russo. Yes, Dominic said quietly. It is. Go home, Marco. Sleep off the whiskey. And tell your father we'll have that conversation about territories next week. Professionally, it was a perfect out, giving Marco a way to retreat while maintaining his own dominance. Marco took it, but the look he shot Elena was pure venom. You've made an enemy, Elena said once they were alone in the elevator. I've had enemies since I was 25. One more doesn't change anything. Dominic exhaled slowly, the adrenaline fading. But he's right about one thing. We're running out of time. The Valentis are going to move soon. Morrison's circling. And I still don't know what to do about you. The elevator doors opened to their floor. They walked to the suite in silence, the weight of the evening pressing down. Inside, Dominic poured them both whiskey, his movements tight with tension. Elena kicked off her heels, the pretense of the evening falling away. I'm sorry, she said finally, for all of this, for the position I've put you in. Dominic drained his glass, then turned to her. Are you? Really? Because part of me thinks you'd do it all again if given the chance. I don't know, Elena admitted. I wanted revenge for my father. I got it. But the cost, her voice broke. The cost was everything else, including this. Dominic gestured between them. Whatever this is. What is this, Dominic? Elena demanded. Frustration and fear and something deeper bleeding through. Because I can't figure it out. One moment you're threatening me, the next you're protecting me. You say I'm your prisoner, but you treat me like... She stopped, unable to finish. Like what? Dominic moved closer, his eyes intense. Like I matter, Elena whispered. Like this is more than revenge or obsession or whatever we're calling it. Dominic's hand cupped her face, his thumb tracing her cheekbone. You do matter. That's the problem. That's what's eating me alive. I should hate you, should want you dead. Instead, The words hung between them, too dangerous to complete. Helena rose on her toes, closing the distance, kissing him with all the confusion and need and desperate emotion she couldn't articulate. Dominic responded instantly, his arms wrapping around her, lifting her against him. They stumbled toward the bedroom, shedding pretenses and clothing in equal measure. Every touch was a question neither could answer. Every kiss tasted of love and hate so intertwined, they'd become indistinguishable. "Tell me what you feel," Dominic demanded against her skin, his voice raw. "Tell me I'm not alone in this madness." "You're not," Elena gasped, her hands fisting in his hair. "God help us both, you're not." What followed was desperate and tender and fierce. Two people trying to communicate through touch what words couldn't capture. When Elena cried out his name, when Dominic buried his face in her neck and shuddered against her, it felt like both a beginning and an ending. Afterward, they lay tangled together, breathing hard, reality seeping back in. "We can't keep doing this," Elena said quietly. "Eventually, something's going to break." "I know." Dominic's arm tightened around her. "But I don't know how to stop." Elena's phone buzzed on the nightstand, the secure one Dominic had given her. She reached for it, her blood running cold when she saw the message. "Unknown number. You have 48 hours to deliver Russo, or I release everything to the Valentis. Your choice. M. Morrison." He'd just declared war. "What is it?" Dominic asked, sensing her tension. Elena showed him the message, watching his expression go from confusion to rage to something calculating. "He's bluffing," Dominic said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Is he? He has evidence of my cooperation. Photos probably. Audio. If he gives that to the Valentis, they'll kill us both. So we deal with Morrison first." Dominic sat up, his mind already working. "We eliminate the threat. He's FBI. You can't just... I can do whatever's necessary to protect what's mine." Dominic turned to her, his expression fierce. "And you are mine, Elena. Not Morrison's. Not the FBI's. Not the Valentis. Mine. And I'm not letting anyone take you from me." The possessiveness should have terrified her. Instead, Elena felt something unlock in her chest, a truth she'd been avoiding since that night in the warehouse. "I'm yours," she said softly. "But Dominic, you need to know, I'm falling for you. Really falling. Not because of Stockholm Syndrome or survival instinct, but because of who you are beneath everything else. And that terrifies me more than Morrison or the Valentis or anything else." Dominic stared at her for a long moment, emotions warring across his face. Then he pulled her close, his lips finding hers in a kiss that was gentle and devastating. "I've already fallen," he admitted against her mouth. "Probably the moment you walked into my world. Everything since has just been me trying to deny it, fight it, make sense of it. This is insane. Completely." His smile was soft, real. "But I'd rather have this madness with you than sanity without you." They held each other as dawn broke over the city, knowing that the next 48 hours would determine everything. Morrison's ultimatum, the Valentis' threat, the impossible tightrope they were walking between love and survival. But for this moment they had each other, and the truth finally spoken aloud. Whatever came next, they'd face it together. The collision of love and hate had forged something new, scarred, complicated, but undeniably real, and neither would let it go without a fight.